Welcome back. So today we're going to do a really quick one on the Tanchjim Zero Ultima. So I just actually talked about the Tanchjim origin, and we'll kind of talk about the similarities to the Zero Ultima in a second. But this is a very popular. I think the Zero was actually a popular set. This is just a popular design. You just pop it in your ears and go. You don't have to wrap it around your ears. You don't have to worry too much about getting the fit as much as you do on an ear on a regular IAM shell. Doesn't have to go around your ears. Non-replaceable cable, microphone. It's actually kind of a nice little kit. You do get a case, and there is some things inside, which I think are just the pouch and the tips, something like that. But maybe we will look at that. Maybe we won't, depending on if I can get it open. So yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a nice kit. You get two sets of tips. You do get the pouch. All of this is all good. But as I said, we'll kind of go through this quickly because if you ever wanted to know what Tanchjim Origin sounds like, just go buy Zero Ultima. It is almost a carbon copy of it. And it's so close, in fact, I had actually popped in Ultima into my ears, and I'm like, wow, this actually sounds better than Origin. And I wouldn't be that surprised because Origin wasn't really my favorite. But when I popped in Ultima, I'm like, wow, this actually does sound better. And then I realized this was enabled. So same EQ actually works on both sets in the same way because they are essentially tuned in the same way. You really can't even see any difference between Origin, which is in the green, and Ultimate, which is in the red. They are essentially tuned very much the same way. They're both single dynamic drivers. They kind of have the same very, very close sound signature. Very, very close. So everything that I said about Origin sort of applies here as well. And what I'll say about what was kind of interesting about Origin and why it was tuned and the balance is kind of a little off for me is, so yeah, I think both Origin and Ultima essentially looks like they rolled off the sub bass a little bit. And if you just hear it, you're like, it sounds a little brighter because they rolled off the sub bass and it needs a little more of that. And that's not actually true. What's more true is that this level is just a little bit too high, and this level out here is just kind of way too high. So you end up with a brightness from the 2 to 5K region, essentially, and then you get some double down on brightness in the upper treble. And those two things are kind of exactly what I talked about here about Origin, and they just make everything sound a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter in weight, a lot closer to neutral bright is kind of what these sound like. And those are fine. That's not what really Origin was, or what Oxygen was originally. Why people liked Oxygen, and why it was kind of a legendary set. A little bit more sub bass and kind of a lot less out here. You don't have that extra high frequency noise. So what the part that I actually missed on Origin, which we will talk about now, is I had actually included this little graph of my EQ for these two sets. And I did actually bump up the sub bass, even less than what Oxygen is, but this isn't necessarily necessary. I think you can get away without it. It's not even the important part, but if you like a little bit more depth to the sub bass, you can add a little bit there. The two important pieces are exactly what I said. This whole 2 to 5K thing, you just have to bring that back down so it's under the Harman target. That'll cut back your brightness quite a bit, and that will give you a more natural presentation, more natural timbre, more natural weight to everything. And then if you bring down the upper treble down, 1 to 2 dB as well, bring this really closer down to Oxygen. And I won't say that this EQ brings you right in line with Oxygen, but take the hint. Oxygen was a legendary set for a pretty much. The reason was because it's a really nice driver and the tuning was actually done well. So taking your Origin or taking your Zero Ultima, which is actually a nice dynamic driver as well, and just leaning them more in line with where Oxygen was and kind of tweaking it in that way, I think those are perfectly fine things, and you will get a more natural, more naturally weighted, better sounding vocals. None of this none of that air region that sounds overly boosted. So there you go. So I would say, again, as I said, the same thing. Whether it's Tanchjim Origin or Zero Ultima, I would essentially do these, and they actually become very, very nice sets. Out of the box, they're just a little bit too neutral bright for me. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.